So in this video, I want to share my experience with smoking DMT on pure baseline, because mostly I've just been smoking DMT while I'm also high on weed. So as you guys know, I quit smoking weed, so this was actually the first time that I smoked DMT completely sober. And before I get into that, I also want to mention that I'm going to be doing a live stream sometime in the near future. And this is just going to prepare me for my recital, my piano recital that's going to be happening. I'm going to be playing La Campanella. And I'm kind of intimidated because it's always considered to be the most difficult piece ever written. If you look up what's the most difficult piano piece ever written, it always keeps saying La Campanella. For me, I would say that that's not technically true. For instance, Flight of the Bumblebee by Chifra is harder, but it's definitely, La Campanella is definitely up there in terms of extreme difficulty. So I'm going to be trying to prepare myself for that by doing live performances at any type of music stores, and since I have a bit of an audience here, I can also make use of that and try to give you guys a decent live performance to see how it goes, and hopefully I can do it properly when the big show comes, and that's going to be on the 24th when my actual recital is. So anyways, I'm going to get back to the trip. So this trip was purely at baseline. I did it probably at 4:30 a.m. and I didn't smoke a huge dose. I wouldn't even consider my experience to be a breakthrough. I think it was just a mild sub breakthrough. I saw entities and I saw landscapes and other things like that, but I didn't, it wasn't as immersive as some of my other breakthroughs have been, so I wouldn't technically call it that. But the dose was 20 to 25 milligrams, and I usually use my bong method, so I just put it on the screen and then use a lighter and then just like burn the stuff, and it melts onto the screen and then it just bubbles up. There could have been some issues with how I burned it, so that might have been why I didn't go as far as I maybe could have been. But when I smoked it, and this was in silent darkness in my bed, I would blow it out the window and then lie in my bed. Initially, I was expecting it to be more intense because I felt a very heavy feeling towards it. Usually when there's a heavy feeling, I usually am bracing for a powerful experience. And oddly enough, every time I go to lie down, I always see the same type of entity in the beginning. This has been happening all the times that I've been smoking DMT lately. I can't really describe it, but it's a blocky entity that looks, obviously ancient looking, but it's somewhat hieroglyphic in a sense, but it's more geometry based. Like if you were to imagine the grid of space-time, and how when you see black holes and you see the grid stretch, it was kind of made out of those types of grids. But it was morphing, but it stays kind of a bit stationary. It's hard to describe exactly what it is, but it's always at the beginning of my experience. Usually Terence McKenna says that there's a chrysanthemum that you're supposed to see at the beginning, but I don't really see that. It's usually just this weird block entity, and then that usually just fades from my view, and then all of a sudden I find myself in the ancient looking rooms with entities moving around. And initially I was bracing myself to have a more powerful experience because I felt this heaviness to it, and there was actually a bit of a quietness to this experience. I thought I was trying to remain calm because I thought I was going to be hit with some type of powerful experience, but it turns out that it was more of it felt less like I was displaced somewhere and more just like I was watching a movie of some sort that was just going on in my closed eyes. And I remember going through this one room, and it was pretty dark. It was hard to make out the patterning in things. If I were to smoke a higher dose, I probably would have seen more of it or been able to make out more of it, but it was definitely there, and it was definitely easy, like somewhat easy for me to see in the moment, but I guess remembering it is a little bit harder if it's not as clear as it could have been. And I was seeing entities moving around in this weird place full of Egyptian alien type patterning and other grid surfaces. And I remember I was seeing what looked like trap doors in little cubbies, and every time I would see these trap doors or cubbies, I would see an entity pop out of it, and then they would go like this. And then what I was seeing was it looked like confetti. It felt like they were throwing confetti on me, or those the party type stuff. Oh, I'm sure it's called confetti, but it's the party type stuff that they throw at people at any even. I was at a EDM show that my friend was playing at, and they had the popper thing where it pops all the stuff and then it goes out. So it reminded me of that. So there was this one entity that was on the bottom, and then he popped out of it, and it was really cartoony in the way that he did it. He popped out of it and he was like, ha, and then he threw all this confetti on me. And then I was like, hey, that's funny. And then there was on the side of the wall, there was also patterning, and then there was a trap door, and then the other guy popped out of that side, and then he did the same thing. He threw the confetti at me. And I thought it was really... at that point, I felt it was playful. I remember that I lost the sense of fear and the sense of danger to the whole experience, and just felt like it was more of a playful experience. I remember before this was happening, I was a little bit more intimidated. I find myself being more intimidated by it, and I always have to think of this time I was thinking of certain people that are in my life and hardships that they have to go through, and then I was thinking, they have a difficult life, so I should be able to handle this experience no problem. So that was the mentality that was going on in my head at the moment. And that kind of mentality definitely works. It's thinking, other people are being tried in a certain way, so this is my way of trying myself, because I feel as if maybe my life is a little more cozy, so these trips can make my experience a little more trying. And it's because you don't really want to have a cozy life where nothing really scary or intimidating happens to you. You want to be able to be desensitized to the harsher things in life, and I feel as if DMT provides that type of danger towards me, because some people can experience that danger when they go out and travel and meet certain people and have experiences where they have to think on their feet, and they have to do something that is more it's a less cozy thing for them to go through, and I just felt that I should try to experience different things that push my barriers a little bit. And I felt like DMT and even oral DMT, specifically oral DMT, are really good ways of doing that. I was thinking about how I was trying to determine how well I would fare with oral DMT, because it's going to last a lot longer than these small experiences, and I find myself reacting in a more fear mentality, and I was questioning my ability to actually handle the higher dose oral DMT experiences again, just because I've been a little bit hesitant with these experiences. But I think it's just been that I've stepped away from it a little bit, so it's harder for me to get accustomed to these experiences, so I just have to retrain myself to slowly go into it. In my next experience, I'm definitely going to try a heavier dose so that I can see more and possibly be tried a little bit. I want to train myself so I'm able to eventually go into the oral DMT experience and try to see what I'm capable of and what I can handle. Because I was a lot braver back in my early tripping days. I was able to experience things that I would be pretty scared of now, and I think I don't know what the change has been. I think it's purely a mental thing. I just have to get out of it, or maybe possibly it's more preparation that I need. I just need to be able to prepare myself better. But other than that, I think that I'm on the right path in terms of this. I'll probably try another DMT experience tonight, maybe at a higher dose. I usually don't smoke it too much in the sessions. Like, I only do one session just because I don't like to damage my lungs too much with the smoke, because I find it's very harsh, and especially since I'm not smoking weed, I found it especially harsh. But hopefully it will go well and I can report back to you, and yeah, that should be pretty fun. So stay tuned for the next video, and I'll see you soon.